Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for another story here at Annie Narrates. The tale for this one goes like this. Married sister-in-law tries to set me up at my own wedding by trying to show this one video of me and my ex that she got her hands on from 7 years ago. But to her utter shock and horror, when the video started playing, she left the venue in tears as my husband played a video of her and her ex instead, which was 1 week old. My husband, 26 male, and I, 26 female, got married a week ago. We had the perfect summer wedding in Maine, and it was a pretty big wedding with almost 100 people. There was a small hiccup though, my sister-in-law, 29 female. I guess if we look past all that drama, the wedding was perfect. The fallout, however, was definitely not. So for some context, my husband, we will call him Mark here, and obligatory, all names have been changed for privacy. Him and I have been together since our senior year of college, been together for 4 years now. We're both from New Hampshire and went to the same uni there. He's the absolute love of my life, and I know how lucky I am to have found him. I also got along great with his family, his parents, cousins, and so forth. However, for some reason, my sister-in-law and I never really got along. I don't know why, but she never really liked me and always made snide remarks at me whenever I was around. I always tried getting to know her more whenever I was at their place, but all my efforts were useless, and eventually I gave up. I spoke to Mark about it too, but he told me she was just like that with new people, and to not take it personally. Well, after 4 years I don't really think I'm new anymore, but here we are. She bumped things up a notch when Mark proposed to me in 2022. And the entire year we spent planning the wedding was great, except for her. She was a nightmare. She was rude throughout the wedding planning and process, and kept talking about how I was a bridezilla for making Mark spend so much on a wedding just because I wanted a big lavish one. This was untrue. Mark and I both worked well-paying jobs and contributed equally to the wedding costs, and both our parents chipped in too. She also demanded to be made a bridesmaid, which I completely did not want to do. I did let her be one though, because I did not want to start a beef with my in-laws even before I was married. I brought up her rudeness throughout the last year, and Mark was always on my side. He always told sister-in-law off whenever she tried to start drama, and that seemed to shut her up for the most part. She was unpleasant whenever we had bridesmaid things to do, and at the bachelorette, but my best friend, who I will call Kat, kept her in line most of the time, and I didn't have to worry much. Now, sister-in-law has been married to her husband, who I would just refer to as brother-in-law to keep things simple, for the past 7 years. From what I've heard, they got married when she got pregnant, and neither of them was financially in a position to have a quote-unquote dream wedding. At least that's what Mark told me. He also told me how she was always wanted to be the center of attention growing up, and was in general a bit of a nightmare to have around, even though my in-laws tried their best to keep her in check. My in-laws also seemed to really like me, and I had a great relationship with them, as I said. I guess sister-in-law wasn't too happy with how much her parents liked me either. We figured that she was just jealous and feeling bad about not being able to have the wedding she wanted, and so hated seeing me getting mine. I'm mostly a pretty chill person, so I understood this and figured out it wouldn't be too much of an issue. I also tried to include her in as many things as possible. Again, a dumb attempt at trying to have some sort of positive relationship with her, while I still could. I was getting pretty tired of her the closer we got to the wedding though, and I ended up snapping at her at one of our bridesmaids meetings after she kept talking about how narcissistic I was being. I was literally just talking about how I wanted a particular aesthetic for the bridesmaid dresses and makeup, and I ended up telling her that she didn't have to participate if she was only going to be rude the entire time. She absolutely blew up at this, calling me a narcissist, bridezilla, entitled, and a spoiled brat who never had to struggle for anything. I honestly do not know what made her hate me so much, but I started crying. Kat stepped in at this point like the angel she was, and managed to calm everyone down. After spending time in separate rooms, I managed to apologize to sister-in-law, and she rejoined the bridal party. Mark was furious when he heard about this little showdown though, and ended up calling sister-in-law when he heard, and completely tearing into her about how he would not tolerate his fiancé being spoken to in that way. She insisted I was being an entitled brat, and also insinuated that I was unfaithful and promiscuous, She sent Mark a video of me and an ex of mine from college when we were kissing at a party. So for some background, I dated a guy who I'll call Brad in my junior year of college. He was fine, but we ended up not being compatible and broke up after like 6 months of dating. It was never too serious, and I hadn't even thought of him in years. Well, sister-in-law went to the same uni we did, and we had a few mutual friends because of this. She followed Brad on social media and knew we dated. It wasn't a secret, and Mark knew about this already. One of the frats at our uni, which Brad was a part of, had a party during the time we were dating, as frats do. I had attended this one time with him, and on their Instagram page, there was a video of the party, and in the background, you could see Brad and I kissing. It honestly wasn't a big deal, and again, Mark knew about this. He yelled at her again, telling her she was wrong for trying to cause problems in our relationship, and that we all had exes, and he knew about all of mine already. I think this was her last straw, and what caused her to pull what she did at our wedding. She remained at the bridal party, but as I found out later, it was all part of her plan to humiliate me. This all went down about 3 months before our wedding, which was supposed to be in June of 2023. About 2 months ago, in a complete plot twist, Mark and I were out and about to enter a bar one night when we saw sister-in-law falling drunkenly out of the same bar in the arms of some guy. Some guy who was not her husband. To say we were shocked would be an understatement, but we ended up just not confronting her, because Mark said that he didn't want to get into all that. They weren't so close, so I understood not wanting to get involved. He did take a video of them together though. A couple of weeks later, at the same bar, we ended up seeing sister-in-law and the same guy again sitting in a booth, sitting and kissing, and in general being way too comfortable with someone who wasn't her poor husband, who was at home with her child. Mark took a video again of this interaction before we left quietly so she wouldn't see us. At this point, I didn't know exactly why he was recording all these interactions if he didn't want to get involved. As you can probably tell from the title, I found out soon enough. Fast forward to our perfect wedding. It was a beautiful day, and I love it so much even despite what went down. The day of, sister-in-law was suspiciously quiet and cooperative. Her dress, hair, and everything were done without a temper tantrum. When I was getting ready for the ceremony, she even pulled me aside to talk to me privately. She told me she was sorry for how she behaved with me earlier, that it was just difficult to see someone with her baby brother, and that she cared for him and wanted to make sure he was with a good person. She told me she realized I was a good person and would love to make a small toast to me at the reception dinner as an apology to me, even though this wasn't planned at the rehearsal dinner. Now, I know everyone here will see right through this and call me an idiot for falling for it, but I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. I hugged her and told her I understood and that I would love for her to give a speech. She smiled and the day went as normal. The ceremony was everything I could have dreamed of, and call it the honeymoon phase if you want, but I felt like I was in a movie. Everyone got changed and dressed for the reception and the dinner. Everything was going smoothly too. The best man and maid of honor gave their speeches, along with our parents. That's when sister-in-law stood up and said she wanted to say something too. I'm going to roughly paraphrase what she said over here. It went something like this. I want to congratulate Mark and OP on their wedding, and I know I've been giving OP a hard time. Now that she's finally becoming an official member of the family, I would like to let everyone see exactly what type of woman she is. Cue a lot of confusion from our guests, and a huge wave of anxiety in me. My stomach dropped and someone wheeled in a giant projector screen. I was super confused as well, because what could she possibly have to show on a projector? And the way she had spoken had made my stomach drop too. Safe to say it did not sound friendly and welcoming. She asked whoever was manning the controls to play the video. And this is where things went south very fast. For her anyway. What started playing on the screen was a compilation of her, all the videos Mark had taken of her, with that random guy at the bar, as well as newer videos I had never even seen, and one as recently as last week. Sister-in-law looked like all the blood had drained out of her face, and she started crying when the video ended and ran out of the room. Our guests were shocked, but Kat and the best man managed to calm everyone down, and after a very tense dinner, we ended up having a really nice party with dancing and music and drinks. After the day finally ended and Mark and I were alone, I asked him what in the world all that was. He had the biggest, evilest grin on his face as he told me what had happened. Apparently, sister-in-law had told one of their cousins that she had a video of me with my ex, from college mind you, 7 years ago, that she would be showing at the reception dinner to show everyone what an insert insulting word for promiscuous woman I was. This was after our whole showdown at my bridesmaids event, and sister-in-law was furious with me and Mark. The cousin was absolutely appalled at this, and not knowing what to do, called Mark and told him everything she knew. He was livid, but didn't tell me since he didn't want to stress me out. He figured he would just handle it by not allowing her to display anything at the wedding. When we saw her that night out of the bar though, he had the evilest idea and the perfect revenge plan. That was the reason he had taken all those videos and managed to get a lot of them before our ceremony, even up until a week before the wedding. He told the best man and cat about this plan, making them promise not to tell me so I wouldn't worry any more than I already was. It's been about a week since then, and Mark and I are on our honeymoon. We're in Greece, and trying to enjoy our time as a married couple. However, our phones have been blown up by Mark's family, sister-in-law, and a few of our mutual friends calling us jerks for humiliating sister-in-law like that in front of so many people. From what we heard from Mark's parents, brother-in-law is planning on divorcing sister-in-law too, and their whole family has essentially imploded. Sister-in-law is a mess and has been going off about how I poisoned Mark against her and how this whole thing was my fault. Mark and I decided we would enjoy our honeymoon and deal with things when we get back the next week, and have had no contact with most of his family except his parents for now. I have been feeling super guilty about this whole thing though, and I want to know if there's any way I could mend things with Mark's family. I don't want his relationship with his sister to be ruined because of me, and most of his extended family hates me because of this whole thing too. I'm feeling kind of conflicted about this whole thing, and I'm not really sure where to go from here. I feel like it's messing up my honeymoon as well, and I would appreciate honest opinions on this situation and any and all advice. Thank you to everyone who responded to this post. It's been about a week since my original post, and I didn't have time to check this account because I decided to focus on my honeymoon and Mark. We're back home now though, and I just remembered I'd posted here, asking for advice on the situation I'm in. I was not expecting the amount of replies, comments, and DMs I got, so I really appreciate everyone. I have replied to as many of you as I can, but I'm going to give a general update here. Firstly, yes, Mark is the best. He puts me first for everything, and I love him so much. I'm super lucky to have him, and I agree with everyone on this thread who has mentioned that. So we talked about this whole thing after coming back home. Finally, sister-in-law and Mark do not have a good relationship at all. She spent their childhood bullying him, making him miserable, and being jealous of any attention or success he received. That extended into many of the relationships he had too, to the point where he didn't want to bring his girlfriends home. Things changed when he moved out for college though, and he ended up toughening up. Sister-in-law was also married by this point, because of the reasons I stated in my original post. By the time we were a serious couple, she had moved out and had a family of her own. This clearly didn't stop her from being bitter and vindictive though, and seeing Mark and me succeed in life definitely pissed her off. Now, brother-in-law is a great guy. He doesn't say much and honestly seems to just give in to whatever sister-in-law wants. He did seem to be a great father though, better than sister-in-law as a parent, and I feel genuinely bad for the guy for how things went down. Mark did end up reaching out to brother-in-law to apologize to him for how he had to find out and told him why he did it. Brother-in-law already had his suspicions, and while he wished it wasn't done the way it was, he was glad it was out in the open so that he could move on. Mark sent him all the proof he had so he could reach out to a lawyer. New Hampshire is a fault state, and adultery is grounds for a divorce, so this should help brother-in-law out a lot. For those of you concerned, Mark's niece, sister-in-law's daughter, did not see the video. Our wedding was child-free. As for how things have been going with the family, sister-in-law made several posts on Facebook talking about how she just wanted everyone to know what type of woman I was, and to save her beloved brother Mark from the heartbreak that would come from being with someone like me. She also used the fiasco at the dinner to talk about how I was trying to isolate Mark from her and the rest of the family. She ended up posting the video of me and my ex too. All these claims are ridiculous, and how she did the mental gymnastics to make that up is beyond me. especially considering there was blatant proof of her own infidelity. All these posts were made while we were in Greece, and we had made it a point not to be connected on social media during this time. We were pretty much bombarded with messages and calls from extended family, most of them taking sister-in-law's side and saying we had gone too far in humiliating her publicly, especially when she was just looking out for her brother. This made Mark pretty angry. He called up his parents first and explained everything to them. He also told them the video sister-in-law had posted was clearly from a college party, meaning it was from years ago. He also told them how he already knew about this and how sister-in-law was just doing this out of jealousy and bitterness. He then called sister-in-law up and chewed her out, telling her she was going to regret the way she behaved with him all his life, trying to ruin every good thing he had, and for messing with his bride. I will admit I blushed at this. He also told her he was a horrible person, that brother-in-law deserved way better, and how he hoped her ex was worth throwing away her comfortable life. Brother-in-law provided everything for them, while sister-in-law was a stay-at-home mom. He then proceeded to block her number. The next part of damage control was to go online and tell our side of the story. Mark made a post detailing much of what I've written here, with proof of his sister's infidelity and plans to ruin my reputation and our wedding, including texts with his cousins. I honestly didn't even know that he had planned all this so thoroughly, and I have to say I think it made me fall even more in love with him. A lot of his family reached out since then to apologize, although there are the odd few who still are taking sister-in-law's side. My in-laws have completely chewed her out too. Even though she's currently staying with them, they forced her to find a job and told her she can only stay with them another month. A lot of people here have reassured me that this wasn't my fault and that there would be no reason for me to try and mend bridges with sister-in-law. I was glad for the third-party input, since it felt good to hear from someone who wouldn't be biased either way. I do think we went a little unclear with how we handled the aftermath though, and sincerely hope sister-in-law turns out okay. I did talk to Mark about it though, telling him the same concerns I posted here. He reassured me that she had it coming, and how this has more to do with him and what type of a person she was rather than me. So I'm feeling much better on that front too right now. That's about all that's happened since the wedding really. Hi everyone. I really didn't think I would be giving another update, but here we are. I got a ton of messages asking how things have been progressing, and considering the kind words and love I got from here, I figured an update was warranted. It's been about a month since my last update, and quite a bit has gone down since then. For starters, I showed Mark my post. He thought everyone's comments and inputs were hilarious and also very kind. He okayed me posting my updates here too. So that's what I'm going to do. So, sister-in-law was served with the divorce papers last week, and brother-in-law is going for primary custody of niece. The divorce will probably take a couple of months, but knowing sister-in-law, she's going to drag it out as long as she can. As for everyone else in the family, they seem to have pretty much forgotten about the whole thing. Everyone is busy with their own lives, so this isn't really surprising. I am feeling less and less guilty as time passes about how things are going for sister-in-law, especially after seeing how she has treated brother-in-law and niece. There isn't really much else to update on, and I probably won't be using this account much anymore either. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to reach out and/or comment. Wow, it's been a long time. I didn't think I would be updating here, but I literally just remembered that this account existed and some stuff has gone down since my last post. I'm going to give a short little update for everyone here, just as a little goodbye, and to give some closure to this whole saga. So it's been about 4 months since my previous update, and sister-in-law's divorce got finalized last week. She tried to create as many problems as she could for brother-in-law, and while I don't know all the details, I think in the end, he did end up winning majority custody of niece and won't be paying alimony either. As for my in-laws' ultimatum, sister-in-law ended up moving back in with her ex she was having an affair with, and still didn't get a job. Her parents are obviously disappointed, but there is only so much you can do for a nearly 30-year-old adult. Brother-in-law still has a good relationship with my in-laws, and they see their granddaughter often, so I'm happy for them on that front. As for sister-in-law, she actually ended up reaching out to me a couple of days ago. Mark had blocked her number, but I hadn't, and she texted me a long paragraph about how she regrets doing what she did on our wedding day, and how she still forgives me and Mark, hilarious by the way, for humiliating her in front of everyone. She said she wants to reconcile with Mark and would appreciate it if I stopped keeping him away from her. No idea where she got that from. Basically, it was a very strange, very weird apology mixed with a lot of passive aggressiveness and contempt. I wasn't sure what to make of it, so I showed Mark, but it made him more pissed off than not, I think. I am not sure what to think about it, but I would like to extend an olive branch, as they say, if it means a normal relationship between siblings. However, whether or not that happens is entirely up to Mark. I'm not really upset with sister-in-law anymore either. She did what she did and it's done now. Plus, I understand now that it never even really had to do with me. I also am wholeheartedly a believer in saying, all's well that ends well. So yeah, again, thank you to everyone for their advice and kind words. I don't think I'll be updating again now. And that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Smash that like button for me and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We'll be seeing you in the next one.